Kenks barely had time to react before the human's boots sent him flying across the tough ground of Gorth 5. It wasn't the impact that left him stunned, but the nonchalant way the human had done it, like brushing off a slightly irritating insect. "You call this a death world?" the human remarked, rolling his shoulders and looking around unimpressed. "How cute!" Kenks gritted his teeth, struggling to get up. His secondary heart was pounding. He had trained for cycles to face the so-called apex predators of Earth, but none of the training had prepared him for this. None of the files had warned about the ridiculous adaptability of humans. "The gravity should be tearing you apart," Kenks hissed. "This planet's gravity exceeds the standard by 30%, the human admitted, cracking his knuckles. "But we train in worse. Ever heard of Jupiter Station? That place makes this feel like a vacation." Kenks snarled. He was a seasoned warrior from the Zavar Dominion, one of the most feared fighters in the sector, yet this human spoke as if superior training were some sort of birthright. "The air is toxic to most species. The native wildlife can digest bone. This world has survived 4 extinction-level meteor impacts in a single millennium." "Impressive," the human said. "Ever been to Australia?" Kenks hesitated. "Australia?" The human grinned. "It's on Earth. It's like this, but worse. Venomous reptiles, massive insects, saltwater creatures that will kill you just for looking at them. And the weather. Sometimes it just decides to set everything on fire." Kenks clenched his jaw. "Your kind shouldn't even exist." "That's what they keep saying." The human grinned even wider. "But here we are." Kenks took a moment to calculate his next move. He was faster and stronger. He should have the upper hand, but none of that seemed to matter against a species that didn't care for survival rules. He'd seen humans keep fighting with broken limbs, continue after what should have been fatal injuries, and even joke in the face of imminent death. "I don't understand your species," Kenks muttered. "Few do," the human replied, slapping him on the shoulder like an old comrade. "So, are we done here, or do you want to go another round?" Kenks's pride screamed at him to keep fighting, but his instincts told him better. This human wasn't just a warrior, he was something far more terrifying. Kenks stepped back, lowering his weapon. The human chuckled. "Smart move." Before Kenks could respond, a distant explosion rattled the ground beneath them. They turned to see thick, black smoke rising on the horizon. Kenks's communicator buzzed to life, filled with static. "Human forces have launched, sustaining heavy casualties." "Sounds like your guys missed the memo," the human said. Kenks's mind raced as the battlefield report streamed in. The Zavar front was collapsing under an unforeseen force. "You didn't come alone," Kenks growled. The human adjusted his gloves and glanced at the horizon. "Of course not. We don't do things halfway." Kenks activated his communicator, his voice sharp. "Regroup at Sector Theta. Reinforce forward positions." A garbled reply came through confirming the order, but the human appeared unconcerned. "That won't help," Kenks said, narrowing his eyes. "You assume victory before the battles even started." "No," the human replied, watching the distant flashes of energy fire. "I assume victory because I know what's coming next." A low, unnatural rumble vibrated the ground. Kenks's instincts flared with danger. It wasn't artillery or an orbital strike. It was something entirely different. Then he saw them. Figures in humanoid exoskeletons, moving in perfect synchronization, weapons bristling with advanced targeting systems. But what really unsettled Kenks wasn't their technology, it was how they moved. Like predators, already confident the fight was over. "You fight with machines," Kenks sneered, trying to mask his fear. "Cowards," the human scoffed. "Those aren't machines. They're just men with the right tools." Kenks had fought against synthetic soldiers before, but these were different. The soldiers moved too naturally, too effortlessly. The exosuits enhanced their speed and power, but it was the minds behind the suits that made them deadly. "They're still flesh and bone," Kenks said. "They can be defeated." The human gave him a sidelong glance. "You'd think that, wouldn't you?" Kenks ordered his forces to advance. The Zavar warriors surged forward, shaking the ground beneath them. Plasma, fire exploded in green and blue streaks, racing toward the human positions. But then, the humans shifted. Kenks had seen skilled infantry tactics before, but nothing like this. The humans anticipated shots before they were fired, dodging and repositioning as though they could predict the very flow of battle. They fired in controlled bursts, cutting down the advancing Zavar with chilling precision. The human beside him smirked. Your people still think war is about numbers. Kenks bared his teeth. We are warriors, not machines. Neither are we, the human said, nodding toward the battlefield. We're just really good at what we do. Kenks watched as a group of his elites attempted to flank the humans, only for the humans to respond as if they had planned for it. One soldier turned, launching a device that detonated midair, sending a shockwave that knocked the Zavar soldiers off balance. Before they could recover, precise kinetic rounds found weak points in their armor. Kenks cursed. Experienced, I see. The human's answer was calm. You're fighting like this is a war. We're fighting like it's survival. The Zavar were disciplined, bred for war, but they fought within rigid rules. The humans fought instinctively, adapting with every shift in the battle. They weren't bound by formations or strategies. It hit Kenks with the force of a revelation. He wasn't facing an army. He was facing predators. His communicator crackled again, urgent. Overrun forces collapsing. Fall back! Kenks's grip tightened on his weapon. His species had conquered countless worlds, but here, against these seemingly fragile beings, they were falling apart. He turned to the human. Your kind shouldn't be capable of this. The human smiled knowingly. You'd be surprised what we're capable of. The battle continued, but Kenks already knew the truth. The war was lost. Yet surrender was not an option. His people had never yielded before. The Zavar dominion had stood unchallenged for centuries. Now, here on the harsh world of Gorth 5, the unthinkable was happening. The humans were advancing with a brutal confidence that wasn't born from desperation, but from certainty. They didn't hesitate or falter. They pressed forward, as though war was a puzzle they had already solved. Kenks's communicator blinked with overlapping distress signals. The command structure was crumbling. Battalions were being overrun by small, coordinated human squads fighting like apex predators hunting their prey. It wasn't their technology or raw strength that overwhelmed the Zavar. It was something more dangerous, instinct. The human beside him remained calm as Kenks's warriors fell back, as if this battle was no more stressful than a morning drill. You should probably retreat, the human said. Kenks bared his teeth. You think we run? I think you should, the human replied. While you still have anyone left to run. Kenks turned back to the battlefield. His soldiers had formed a defensive line, hurling energy blasts at the advancing enemy. The humans, undeterred, broke formation, scattering into smaller units that moved with impossible precision. Kenks could no longer deny it. The humans weren't just winning. They were enjoying it. His grip tightened around his blade. If they were predators, then he would show them what it meant to hunt. With a roar, he charged into the fray, followed by his warriors. If death was inevitable, they would face it head-on, as Zavar should. Kenks struck the first human with a devastating blow, his blade tearing through reinforced armor. He spun, knocking another aside, fighting with everything he had, trying to push back against the overwhelming tide. But the tide didn't break. The humans adapted with unnatural speed, anticipating every move. Their weapons found weak points in his defense, and their strikes grew more precise. Kenks grunted as a kinetic round slammed into his shoulder, sending jolts of pain through his arm. Another hit landed in his side. He fell to one knee, vision swimming. He had underestimated them. The human from earlier stepped forward, lowering his weapon. You fought well, the human said. Kenks glared up at him, chest heaving. Kill me, then. Get it over with. The human shook his head. Not how we do things. Kenks narrowed his eyes. You show mercy? The human crouched beside him. Mercy? No. We don't kill when we don't have to. Doesn't mean we forget. He nodded toward the battlefield, where the last remnants of the Zavar forces were surrendering. Take your people. Leave this world. Go home. Kenks snarled. You think we won't return? The human's smile was devoid of humor. Oh, I'm counting on it. More humans arrived to secure the battlefield as Kenks's warriors hesitated, looking to their leader. He exhaled slowly. There was no victory to claim here, no honor in dying for nothing. He rose to his feet. We will not forget this. The human nodded. Neither will we. Kenks turned away, signaling his remaining soldiers to fall back. The Zavar had learned a hard lesson today. one that would change the way they viewed the universe. The humans weren't just another species to conquer, they were something entirely different. Something worse. The silence aboard the warship was suffocating. Kenk sat alone in the command chamber, claws drumming against the armrest of his throne-like chair. The battle was over. Gorth 5 was lost. But the echoes of that day still haunted him. The Zavar Dominion had faced setbacks before, worlds abandoned, wars prolonged. But this was different. Never had they encountered an enemy that changed the very definition of battle. The humans hadn't just won because of superior numbers or weapons. They had won because they had something the Zavar had never faced in an opponent, a drive to survive at any cost. Kenks reviewed the battle data once again, seeing it in a new light. The humans moved like war was second nature to them. They adapted with every encounter, making no predictable moves, holding no rigid formations. Their doctrine was no doctrine at all. It was simply the will to win, no matter the cost. His advisors argued about what to do next. Some wanted immediate retaliation. Others whispered of diplomacy, understanding the nature of these creatures before acting. Kenks remained silent. For the first time in his career, he didn't know the right answer. The doors to the chamber hissed open, and High Strategist Zalek entered, his reptilian face tight with concern. "You've been silent since the retreat," Zalek said. "The Dominion demands answers. What do we do?" Kenks didn't reply immediately. The humans don't fight for territory. They don't fight for resources. They don't even fight for conquest. They fight because war is woven into the fabric of their being. Zalek's eyes narrowed. "You think they can't be beaten?" Kenks looked him dead in the eye. "I think they can't be broken. And therein lies the problem." Zalek paused, considering. "If we don't act, the Dominion will see it as weakness. The High Council won't let us retreat indefinitely." Kenks clicked his claws against the metal armrest. "We don't retreat. We learn." Zalek tilted his head. "What do you propose?" "We've underestimated them once," Kenks said. "We won't make that mistake again." Kenks stood. "I will return to the capital. I'll speak before the High Council. We must prepare, not for another battle, but for a war unlike anything we've ever fought." Zalek's tail twitched. "And if they refuse? If they demand immediate retaliation?" Kenks's jaw tightened. "Then they are fools, and they will lead us to ruin." Zalek nodded. "Very well. I will see to the fleet's withdrawal." As the strategist left, Kenks turned his attention back to the stars outside the viewport. Somewhere out there, the humans were preparing. He knew it. They wouldn't be idle. They would never grow complacent. They knew something the Zavar were only beginning to grasp. A war was coming. And this time, the humans would be ready. Kenks stood before the High Council, his expression grim. The towering chamber was silent as they listened. "The humans must not be underestimated," Kenks began, his voice steady. "They are unlike any adversary we've faced. If we don't recognize their true nature, our empire will suffer." Councillor Vodar, an elder whose spines had dulled with age, regarded him carefully. "You speak as if they are more than a minor anomaly. We fought greater foes and endured worse. The humans hold only a fraction of the territory we do. Their fleets are smaller, their numbers fewer. What makes them so dangerous?" Kenks clenched his jaw. "They don't fear death. They don't break. They don't adhere to the logic of war that all civilizations have followed before them. They thrive in chaos. War is part of their nature." Murmurs rippled through the council. Some dismissed his words. Others took them seriously. "Do you think they're beyond our ability to defeat?" another counselor asked. Kenks shook his head. "No, but they cannot be beaten by the methods we've relied on for centuries. Their victories aren't won through superior weapons or numbers. They win because they refuse to lose." Valker exhaled sharply. "Then what do we do? How do we respond?" Kenks looked around the chamber. "We evolve. We study them as they study us. We become unpredictable, just like they are. The Dominion has ruled through sheer power for centuries, but that will not work here. We must change, or we will fall." The council fell into silence, the weight of Kenks's words hanging in the air. For the first time, the Zavar faced a challenge they couldn't crush with force. Finally, Valker leaned forward. "We will consider your words, Commander. But know this, we do not yield to inferiors. If the humans seek war, war is what they will get." Kenks bowed slightly, but said nothing more. He knew their pride ran deep. It wouldn't be cast aside so easily. But the seed had been planted. The future of the Dominion now depended on whether they could accept the truth before it was too late.